Welcome to Drams and the Dragon Reborn.
Oh God.
Tonight, we're taking hold of Sidin.
Mm-hmm.
Hope the madness of the Dark One doesn't take us.
For our souls are tainted by the thick, oily layer of goop. I don't know. I'm tired, man. It's like
Yeah, man.
I
Tonight
like it.
we're gonna do um, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. It's the first book in the Wheel of Time series. It's kind of a
Mm,
big one. Um, and we're gonna talk about that book, and then we're gonna chat a little bit about the first season of the show. Like I think I mentioned last time, the third season is on the way. It should
it's
be
nigh.
here in the early part of next year, 2025. So we're gonna do Eye of the World. This
Yay.
is a big one.
Yeah, it's huge.
This is a huge one. Both for its stature in the world of fantasy, and also how big of an impact it had on both Dustin and I. So,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about that first
Can't
before
wait.
we get into the book. Before we get into the book, uh, I'm gonna have just a little bit of whiskey, do a little tasting here.
Nice. And I'll be drinking also. I'm having a little dram of Lagavulin to celebrate my favorite book with
Very
my
nice.
favorite whiskey. What you got for us?
It's the red breast single pot still, but this is their uh, Lustau edition, which is a sherry
Ooh,
finish expression of this sort of very famous Redbreast distillery in Ireland. This one is Irish. I am a really
exotic.
big fan of the Redbreast 12, which is like their main thing. So yeah, I have tried this. Um, we got this for Crystal, actually. Crystal enjoys sherry finish. She likes Redbreast. She likes the sherry finish. She's a big fan of like those kinds of notes. The sherry, the port finish stuff, kind of sweeter notes. She likes
Hmm.
because Redbreast 12. I don't know. Have you had that?
I have.
Yeah, it's like fruitcake. It's like
Yeah.
drinking fruitcake. That is a very dark color.
Mm-hmm. The sherry
It's
cask
got
coming through.
exactly. It's got that deep, rich amber sherry cask color.
Yeah, I'm reading here it's got a Oloroso sherry butts they use.
Yeah, it is 46%.
Okay.
This is sticking my nose in. I get almond. It's like almond and dried fruit.
Okay.
I mean, the sherry cask, like the raisininess of the sherry cask, is like super coming through. Those Oloroso casks are
Hmm.
popping on the nose. It's got vanilla. It's very strong. Like the sweet notes are like really really popping off here. It's the Redbreast 12 is already really sweet. All the sort of fruity, spicy, nutty notes are just like magnified
Oh,
by
interesting.
that finish.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, is it easy to differentiate the sherry kind of impact from the normal redbreast?
I can, yeah. I definitely those dried fruit notes.
Hmm.
They've gone from being almost like just regular, sort of slightly dried fruit notes mixing in with everything else to now being like candied fruit notes, like candied pear, candied like
Oh,
apricot, raisin, like
okay.
dried candied fruit. It's like amped up to 11.
Cool. So intensified.
Yeah, it's got an incredible nose. That almond also just like brings in the holiday, sort of smell.
Nice.
Even it just like ramps it up again. It's like everything on the nose anyway. And just talking about the nose here is it takes everything you like about the smell of Redbreast 12 and just takes it to 11.
Cool. Shoot, man.
Mm. And now taking a taste, one thing I always liked about the Redbreast 12 is how smooth it is.
Hmm.
This is not very smooth.
Oh,
Like you could just, I mean, practically just chug Redbreast 12. It's unbelievably drinkable. This and I'm assuming this is the sherry. I would also note this is not an age statement whiskey. The Redbreast 12 obviously is older. This may be a younger whiskey.
hmm.
And so it's not as smooth. It's got a lot more burn. It's a lot harsher on the palate. So the smell is incredible. I mean, 10 out of 10 smell. On the palate, yeah, I'm getting some of that sweetness, some of those spices. It's very spice forward.
Hmm.
I'm getting a lot of almond and I don't know if you've ever tried to drink or tried like just a little taste of just almond extract,
Mhm.
how bitter it is, and
Yeah.
how kind of I'm actually getting that in this whiskey. It is not the most pleasant whiskey I've ever tasted.
Oh man.
The smell and the flavor don't seem to agree. And it's sad
Mhm.
because I love the Redbreast 12. Crystal loves the Redbreast 12. We both enjoy a sherry finish. She loves a sherry finish usually. I don't think it's working on the palate here. I mean, I can taste some of the sherry influences, but it seems like sometimes sherry finishes can be kind of astringent.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is getting more in that direction.
That's my
Um,
main beef with sherry finishes. Actually, a little weary of them. I've been hurt before, Gus.
yeah, so I'm getting some bitterness, which is not a very and that comes with the sort of almond. It's like the bitterness of the almond, and it kind of is driving away a lot of the other flavors that I sort of
Mhm.
am detecting. Like I start to taste one thing, or start to taste this, start to taste that, and then that bitterness is just like, get out of here, bam.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
man.
and I'm not really loving it. I'm not gonna. It's not like I'm gonna. It's so bad that I'm gonna pour it down the drain or something. But like,
Might need cream and sugar inside of it to
yeah, I might need to
that.
put it into some eggnog. Yes.
Yeah, maybe the eggnog will. Yeah, stringent and bitter, not really flavor profiles we enjoy too often.
Yeah. Now it does have that classic Irish whiskey, sort of slightly metallic,
Hmm.
unmalted barley kind of flavor. And I
Yeah.
actually like that. Even here, that's pleasant and sort of light. It's a little bit lighter than sort of the fully malted drams that we often have from Scotland.
Hmm.
It's it does have some of that apple from that. It does have some of the raisin and the dried fruit from the sherry cask and from but all the good things that it does are fighting with these bad things that it does,
Hmm.
these things that are not as good.
Hmm.
Again, there's no age statement on this. I don't know if it's 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. It has to be at least 3 years to be a single pot still.
Hmm.
In Ireland, they have different requirements for just like Scotland does. But I suspect it's on the younger side just because of kind of how bitter and astringent it is. And I would
Hmm.
wonder if they had maybe not taken Redbreast 12 and then given that a few months in a sherry cask, that wouldn't be even better.
Hmm.
As opposed to this, which tastes young.
Gotcha. Yeah, my Lagavulin here is a 11-year, and it's very good,
Yeah.
very very
Was that
tastable.
it's the Nick Offerman one, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the coffee version.
Yeah. So if I just sit
Yeah.
here and smell this whiskey
Hmm.
instead of drink it, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
If I sit here and actually have to drink it, this is a lot less good.
Oh man. Has it changed since you've been sipping it for a couple minutes here? Has it changed at all, or is it still kind of that same astringent bitterness?
I'm starting to pick out some of those other things, but the astringency and bitterness
Hmm.
are definitely still present in a
Bummer.
way that is unpleasant. Yeah, it's like there's a really good whiskey kind of like hiding underneath
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, it's just competing with these sort of bad notes.
I don't know. I was kind of, it seems like a no-brainer, but your whiskey should taste good before all else. Like, I'll,
Yes.
I'll forgive a lot. I'll forgive a weird smell, if the taste is good. It seems like a
Mm-hmm.
no-brainer, but is the finish, how's the finish on this one?
Uh, Slightly heartburny.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
it's it's long. It's got that Irish whiskey metallic thing.
Hmm.
It's got a long, subtle bitterness and also a long, subtle sweetness. It's not. It's actually not a terrible finish. As they go, it's very long finish. I taste that sort of back of the like that. Like how Jameson has that like back of the tongue thing that just lingers forever. That's like slightly metallic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of deal. It's very similar in that regard here, and I assume
Okay.
that's just the unmalted barley going doing its thing. The finish is kind of it's got pluses minuses. It's kind of forgettable. Although it is long, I don't hate the finish. The finish is not the worst part of this by any means. The smell is incredible. The finish is fine. That palate is just the bitter and astringent, and
Okay.
it's just a hard one. It's hard. It's a hard one to recommend, uh, because of that. Because of how it tastes.
Yeah.
um,
Oh
yeah.
man. So bummer. So that's a like mix it into your drinks
Yes.
level, if I
This is
remember
one of
everyone.
those
Yeah.
bottles. Yeah. This is one of those bottles where you buy it and you're like, oh, that isn't too great. And then from then on, you're just like, we got to find other uses for it.
Yep.
We got to find uses for it, right? Like mixing it into cocktails. I can see mixing this in a cocktail. I can
Yeah.
see mixing it into eggnog, which is the right time of year for that. I could see, I don't know about cooking with it. I mean, maybe I could see, putting it in a dessert, if you're cooking and you need some whiskey to like, I don't know, soak your fruit cake with or something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can see that. It's got the right sort of attributes. It's got the right flavor profile, smell, and
Cool.
everything. But I can't recommend this for sure. And I love the Redbreast 12. I think Redbreast makes some amazing whiskey. Um, this is not something you should buy. If you
Okay.
are gonna, you should go buy Redbreast, like the Redbreast 12. That is what I would recommend. And I can review the Redbreast 12 another time. I would not recommend this one.
Well, can't win them all. Man, sorry to hear that, but you heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Don't waste your money on the Redbreast Lustau.
Oh yeah, that's my next question. How much more is it than, or is it more expensive than regular
Um,
Redbreast? Like
it was a
what's our
similar
price?
price. It was a similar price to regular Redbreast 12.
Okay.
At least that's so. I would just say go get a Redbreast 12.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could share some of my Lagavulin with you. It's wonderful right now.
I would much prefer that instead of the Redbreast Lustau. Yeah.
These days. Yeah, we're
All right.
can't wait to combine forces here. For those
Mhm.
who are listening, we're going to be living. Gus and I will finally live in the same time zone in a few months here, and then near the same town. So
Not even the
probably do
same
some
time
combined.
zone, like the same town, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to be the same county.
same county.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really looking forward to that, man. We can like share live and
Mm-hmm.
have live wife reactions, even if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Sky's the limit.
Yep. We'll figure something out. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
The format might change a little, but not for the worse.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah. All right. Well, so are you ready to move on?
Let's do this, man. I'm
Cool.
pumped.
So let's now turn to The Eye of the World.
Eye of the
Wheel of
world.
Time, book 1.
Yep.
Robert Jordan. Man,
Man.
this book this book is incredible. The series is incredible. The author is one of the great fantasy authors. Would it be unfair or over the top or whatever? Would it be over the top of me to say that Robert Jordan is one of the greatest fantasy authors to ever write?
Nah, it's not over the top. It's true. I'd fight somebody who disagreed with that. I'd probably fight.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I mean
a
it's one of the best-selling series. It's beloved by millions.
Mhm.
It's been wildly popular. Um with a
Yeah.
broad reach, not just nerdy little boys, right? I mean, got a big broad reach.
Yeah, I mean it takes for me, yeah, it really just got me into epic fantasy. And for me, I prefer it over, and probably controversial, but um I read this before Tolkien and I prefer it to Tolkien's style. It's very different style. Yeah, Jordan was is just a tour de force, man. Um
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those books too. It keeps giving and it's got replay value. It's one of those where, you and I read it as like teens and I reread it every few years and it's still great.
Yeah.
I think my last reread was maybe 2 years ago. I did all the audiobooks this time, just to have that experience and just as good. And in fact, it was better because as I've grown and as I've matured, different things popped out at me, different characters I identified with. I'm still noticing different things and making connections. And yeah, it's just one of those books. I don't think there's anything else out there like it.
I was the sort of opposite. I read, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien. I read all
Yeah.
that before this came out, before I read it. So for me, it was all in the context
Oh, cool.
of that. So I had some of that context when I read this. Um and I still love those. I don't know. With these, I'm not like, oh, I gotta compare them or say, oh, I like this more better, or I like this more, I like this more. I like them both. They're very different. I appreciate them both for what they are. Yeah, I love this series. For me it set a new bar for epic fantasy or for fantasy in general.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny you say nobody had written anything like this, and I think that's true to some extent. But actually, though, it's funny. The last time I went back and read this, because I reread a bunch of the series. I didn't finish the series. The last time I did a sort of reread, I stopped like halfway through.
Mhm.
Um, and that was not that long ago. But it actually struck me like how much of Dune is in this. Like
Dude, man, it pops up everywhere.
like how much of Dune. It's like if somebody took Lord of the Rings and Dune and like mashed them together, you would get you would get Wheel of Time, right? Like it's got its
Yeah, I
own
can see
own
that.
spin on things, its own take, its own all kinds of things, but it's like it's this huge mashup of like these things and then with like a whole spin on it. But it's I'm not saying it's not original, but I just wanted to highlight that like there are a lot of Dune elements in Wheel of Time. Uh,
Yeah.
I think Robert Jordan is very inspired by Frank Herbert. So,
Yeah, I'd say
but
that. Yeah,
yeah,
that I would agree with that one. Yeah,
not
and
in a bad way, but like,
nah,
you know,
not in a derivative way. And I know for me, something I wanted to talk about today too is one thing that's been constant over the years is I've heard people struggle with starting the series because of stuff like that, because maybe they see something that's derivative or they see a trope. And to be clear about these books, like I mean, these were written what, late '80s, mid '80s, late '80s. That's when Eye of the World was written, but there's some definite fantasy tropes in here, and they can be a little challenging if you're expecting this big epic suave thing that everybody talks about. Because you got farm boys, chosen
mm-hmm.
ones, you got the bad evil guys, and they've got some tropes going on. But
I'll say this. I don't know when they were written exactly, but Eye of the World was published in 1990.
1990, good grief.
Yeah. The Great
Yep.
Hunt was also published in 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has got like those first two books,
Yeah.
written ahead of time and then published eventually.
Right. And there's lots to say about that too. Those like I remember reading something like they were supposed to be a trilogy, like only,
Mm-hmm.
and so he wrote it differently. The first three books are kind of in one thing, but yeah, it's hard, man. And I like what you said about not comparing them because it's like comparing like a delicious feast to a different delicious feast. It's not really something you should compare. You should just like appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm curious, man. So when you started reading it, what engaged you with it? Like, what was it that caught? Like, what was your hook into it? Because I had a couple definite hooks. I'm wondering if you did too.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, I think Jordan, is just his writing is excellent. It's very readable, but
Mhm.
it's not boring. He's got great prose,
Yeah,
so it's very readable. I think the story in Eye of the World, and I think we're mostly today going to focus on Eye of the World.
yeah,
Um, but in Eye of the World, it's like you jump right into the action, right? You get a little bit of background, and then he sets up this sort of tropey thing, right? Which is where Farm Boy is in a town, and then shit hits the fan, and suddenly Trollocs are everywhere, and there's this emergency, and they're having to like flee their home, and that's the setup.
did you call them Trollocs?
Trollocs, Trollocs. What's that? What is it?
I was calling them Trollocs. It's just
Trollocs.
where you put the thing.
Yeah.
No, which is another fun thing about the book series. Everyone's got a different like headcanon for what the pronunciations are. Like I've heard Nynaeve, Ninieve, Nynaeve.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. I'm gonna
They're
listen.
infamous.
We're gonna find out
Yeah, how do you say
I'm gonna
Trolloc? Trolloc. Maybe it's
Trolloc.
Trolloc. That's how the Scottish would say it. Trolloc.
Yeah, Trolloc.
Trolloc.
Oh man. Man, everybody says it differently. Okay, there's a thread here on Reddit
Uh
about how to pronounce Trolloc because it's a troll. It's a troll, right?
no,
The name is a no. I mean, they're not trolls, but like the name is derived from troll.
I mean it could be, but
It has to be. It's
no.
Trolloc, right? It's got to be Trolloc. But like people, there's like okay, there's the thread has as many different pronunciations for this word as there are posts, and there's like 100 posts. Okay, there's Trolloc, Trolloc, uh,
That's so funny.
Troll Ox, Trow Ock, Trolluck. Um, somebody says rhymes with bollocks.
Trollocs. Yeah, that's how I.
So you're like the rhymes with bollocks.
That's so
Because you're
funny. This is case in point. This is a microcosm of what it means to be in the the Wheel of Time universe.
somebody else says drawl locks. It rhymes with drawl locks. Uh,
Trollocs.
yeah, every pronunciation is represented, and then some that I would never have even considered. So
Yeah.
okay, how do you say
A Sedai.
how do you well okay okay so how do you I was actually going to say how do you say the one power the name for the one power.
Oh, Sidin and Sidar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sidin and Sidar is how I say it. I have seen people pronouncing it Sidine. I've also seen people pronouncing it like Saidine. I've seen all kinds of shit.
If any of the people who pronounce it that way are listening right now, you're wrong. I say that with love in my heart. But no, no, just kidding. You're totally not wrong. We're inclusive here. Um, yeah,
Well,
I
there are
mean,
some things that
dude,
are
the
wrong, but
Aiel or the Ale, the Aiel. I mean, even some of the main characters. I remember having like a very heated conversation with a friend about the pronunciation of Nineveh. He was like, no, it's Nynaeve. I was like, that sounds stupid. No one would call anybody Nynaeve. It's Nineveh. And
oh yeah, well, I'm going to throw a wrench into that and say Nynaeve.
Nynaeve,
That's how
yeah.
I read it in my
Oh,
head, at least as a kid. Like I think in the show they went with Nynaeve
I think so, yeah.
or something like
Well,
or Nynaeve.
so since
Yeah,
then, there's been such like, you know, so much ado about this. I believe Harriet, who is Robert Jordan's spouse and editor, who we talked about before,
and
she's an
an
amazing editor.
amazing editor,
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't be there without her. Um,
literally.
but yeah,
Yeah.
she's gone out, and there was a pronunciation guide, like an official one, and apparently, she was consulted for the show, and they consulted that. So apparently, there's an answer for that stuff now. But
Okay, hold on. Robert Jordan. If I'm going to search for this, I did not know there was an official pronunciation guide.
oh yeah,
All right, Robert Jordan, official pronunciation guide. Okay, well, how did they? Okay, let me ask you while I look for this. How did they say it in the audiobooks? Because I would think that would be pretty definitive.
yeah, right. That's I think Nynaeve, Aiel, the Aes Sedai. They had to, and then Sedin Sedar. They did, and those are just the old school ones with Michael Kramer and his wife, whom I can't remember her name. I should know her name. And the new ones are being done by she plays Moriane or Moraine. Moiraine.
Moiraine.
So she's reading the new one. I just heard something by her today. She was reading just one of the amazing chapters, and it's part of the prose I wanted to get into, which we can go into later. But yeah, for listeners, I mean, this is kind of what I don't know if you could tell the vibe of this isn't like it's not edge lordy like me pronunciations. It's like it's fun. It's one of those things like Gus and I have been reading this stuff since the 90s, and we have a different way of thinking about it in our head. And it's really cool. You just get these different experiences whenever you read them. So I think it gives you a clue into how special these are. Oh, Rosamund Pike. That's her name.
Yes, Rosamund Pike. So yeah, this book, this book is epic fantasy. This isn't grimdark. This isn't. I know people are like trying to come up with all kinds of stupid names for like noble dark or grim,
Eh,
stuff like that. No, this is epic fantasy. It is like the epicest, highest fantasy.
Ugh.
It's set in a really cool, amazingly detailed world with really, I mean, like Brandon Sanderson wishes he had the world building skills of Robert Jordan. Robert Jordan's world building skills are second to basically none.
Yeah. And
I Yeah.
he was a huge influence on Sanderson, who
Mhm.
was
And
a
Sanderson obviously finished this series, but that was many, that was like 20 years after Eye of the World, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Well, because dude, I mean, so we talk about how it opened up, but the opening of the book, it's a scene that takes place 2,000 years or so before the rest of the series.
yep.
And
The
I don't know, man.
prologue.
Yeah, the prologue, it's just incredible, and it just immediately gets you in. And you're in the age of legends, and you're seeing it's like a fall of Rome type thing. Everything's everything's going to shit. And I remember for me, man, like I was hooked. I think the first line of the first paragraph of the book, the way it's written, it's like a herald trumpet. It's his prose, it's his voice, and it's so distinct and welcoming. And he has kind of a tradition in the beginning of his books. He talks about a wind going down through the valleys, and how the wind, it's a beginning. It's not the beginning, but it's a beginning, and this and that. And
Mhm.
like I get chills just thinking about it, because I don't know, even when I do my rereads, it's just enthralling. And it's cool seeing 2,000 years back.
Mhm.
And it gives you a bunch of little things to look for and guess about, and a bunch of interesting characters right off the bat. Um, and then yeah, then it goes into the farm boy trope,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed. And I still enjoy it. It's like cute now.
Yeah.
Ah, here we go.
Well,
Feels cozy.
I thought it was it's kind of cozy, but I thought it takes the sort of the trope that was established essentially by, Tolkien,
Yeah.
uh, with in both The Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings, where at the beginning, like you've got this little essentially farm bumpkin, getting swept away on a grand adventure, right? Whether
Yep.
it's
He
and
has his
then in
father's sword, and yeah, all the
yeah,
good
and
stuff.
then in this, Rand, the Dragon Reborn, the main character, is swept
Well, that is a
away.
spoiler for some people, by the way. Should
I
should
mean, okay, sort of.
Can you believe that, by the way?
I
Because they're
don't
set.
think that's no, that's not a spoiler.
Dude, it totally is for people who watch the series.
Okay, for people who are watching the series, you've never read the books and you're going into the series blind, that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I think it's a stupid spot. We'll get into more about that, but I think it's silly that the show is putting that kind of drama into it. Like, who is the Dragon Reborn?
Yeah.
Pretty
The,
quick in the books.
yeah. The book
No.
is not that is not a big reveal. That is it is practically irrelevant in terms of you know. You know right
Like the
away.
bad guys don't know, but that's it. Like the
Yeah.
reader, you know.
The reader knows. Yeah. And pretty much we can get into this, but pretty much the whole book, the first book is just it's a Rand book. There's
Yeah.
almost nothing about the other characters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Rand, and more Rand.
Yeah.
Uh, but by the way, about Trollocs versus Trollocs, I think you're right according to the pronunciation guide. Trolloc. Yeah. Yeah. So my way, my headcanon way, which is Trolloc, and what everybody else said, all the weird ass pronunciations that other people suggest on the internet are all wrong. It appears to be Trolloc. So
Cool. Well, thank you, Gus. I know how much that meant. That means a lot to me to hear that.
yeah.
For the record, I'm actually a big believer in headcanon being able to be a thing. So, in fact, you've poisoned me now. I will probably call them Trollocs. I can't get it out of my head now. Oh, Trolloc.
Oh man.
Um, so yeah, I guess, and then that's another thing. I guess right off the bat, so you got this book. Um, there's things we could say about the book. It's very different from the series thus far in some ways, but the book itself. I don't know. Should we go through the rest of the book itself and kind of go through like the rest
I
of it?
think,
Because I'm yeah,
yeah, I think it might be instructive to talk about the show just a little bit,
yeah,
um, because I think the book and the show have really different structure. Um,
yeah. Which makes sense, right? It's an adaptation, and
well, and
should
it's an
maybe be some
adaptation.
differences.
Yeah, there's not only should there be
But
some differences, and I will say I kind of understand some of the differences in the first season. Not all of them,
yeah,
not all of them, but some of them I get. Um, so the first season of the show, the whole cast of characters are kind of main characters, right?
yeah.
You know, whether Nynaeve, you know, Egwene, is it Egwene or Egwina? I don't know.
They call her Egwene in the show and on the audiobooks
Yeah, I always
and
pronounced it
headcanon.
Egwene in my head.
Egwene.
So, whether it's, all these characters are all main characters over the course of the series. And they're in the first season, they're all main characters. That is not true in the book.
Nope.
Not at all. Uh, the main character is Rand in the first book.
Yeah.
He's like 80% of the book is from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit of Matt, you get a little bit of Perrin,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else? Is there anybody else you get some perspective
I
from?
think you get a little bit from Moraine in the village. Um, but not I don't but they Jordan plays it real tight to his chest. And yeah, he doesn't really start going into Matt and Perrin until later, like till after Mashadar and Shaidar Logoth and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff when they split up.
Yeah.
That's when they start the different paths.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very different like that. And I think they had to do it because they had to create, it's a drama and they want people involved and stuff. And so they had to get the characters doing things that were engaging. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they went. So I guess I'll say it. I don't care for how they did it. And I don't get me wrong. I watch a show and I will watch every episode of it because I love the premise so much. But yeah, it reminds me of like a South Park episode where they make fun of dramas, that are like over dramatic and melodramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And they just added some, like the parent being married and then accidentally killing his wife while he was in like a berserker rage thing. Um, was just so not true to like the soul and feel of Perrin the character to me. Um,
That change was bullshit.
it was bullshit. Yeah,
That change
let's
was
say it right
bullshit in
here.
a whole lot of ways.
Yeah.
In a whole lot of ways. Like, it was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of getting in the way of his character, like growing the way that Perrin grows in the books.
Yeah.
You've just created this character, this woman character, and just killed her off.
Yeah.
She had no backstory. She had no anything. Like, it's actually a really stupid trope that a lot of people don't like.
Yep.
Uh,
And to what? To traumatize your characters so that they had trauma.
yeah,
Like, and that was kind of the whole point of the book, though. They were these like innocent young wool-headed shepherders from the bumpkin country in the mountains.
yeah.
And that was part of the charm of the book, is that they weren't these world-wise, jaded people.
Mhm.
Um,
I think when you're doing an adaptation,
mhm.
there's, especially with something like this, there's an opportunity that you can use, and that at times in the series, in the first season they did use, that I think is really that can be really cool.
Mhm.
And it's the opportunity is you go show things from perspectives that were not in the book.
Yeah.
An example of that in this is that fight scene in the village when Moiraine and Lan just go off
Mhm.
killing Trollocs, just absolutely like massacring these Trollocs in this huge battle and saving lives and doing other stuff, which in the books, of course, you don't see this. You
Mm-hmm.
see the aftermath of it. You see it from Rand's perspective. Again, the book is virtually all from Rand's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and so you see it from his perspective, which is which is in the book, and you see he's in his house, with his dad or with his, and they're ambushed, and he gets the sword and he runs away and he's rescued. He makes it back to the village. He doesn't know what happened to his dad, and he gets to the village and it's wrecked, and there's been a big battle, and there's dying and wounded people, and Moiraine and Lan are there. And so this time you have this really cool opportunity when you're doing this to show that.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that, and it was really cool. And they did that a number of times throughout that season. But then they also changed stupid shit for no reason, like
Yeah.
the thing with Perrin, or um, we can get out of this, or the sort of storyline, the arc of Nynaeve and or Nynaeve,
Yeah.
or what the fuck you say her name, Nynaeve. Head
The-
pronunciation versus like
oh
actual
yeah.
pronunciation.
They had
But
some
anyway, so
weird stuff with the Aes Sedai too that was kind of out of place, and oh,
yeah, and trying to introduce like an example of that would be trying to introduce Alana like super early in the story,
yeah,
when she doesn't even show up in the book until,
a while later.
well, it's like it's in the like the third book, like she gets a
Mm-hmm.
part, right? But it's like you're introducing her in like season one when she should be a character that's showing up in like season three, and you're introducing her kind of for no reason. Yeah, it was very odd. There's very odd choices that were made, and some downright stupid choices that were made.
Yeah,
They also showed some cool things, like we got to see Logain um
yeah,
being a badass sort of false dragon with the one power,
yeah,
right? And we got to
yeah,
see some cool shit also.
yeah, and so the show worked, man. It like tantalized you a little bit. I love Shadar Logoth too, like this
Mm-hmm.
giant abandoned city in the middle of a forest. I thought that
Yep.
was really cool, and like I loved when they would show us those things, and yeah, having the Red Sisters go in and seeing what Red Sisters do and giving them some bit more, get them fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the adaptation should do. But yeah, like you said, man, they just added, they chose to also rewrite things they didn't need to, things that Jordan wrote better because that's what he does.
Yeah.
um and yeah, the word hubris comes to mind, like these changes to someone's art that don't need to be. It almost seems like they made it because they thought it was better, or they thought it would go across better, but I don't know.
But it didn't, and
It
it
didn't.
doesn't, and they should just like let the work of the original author kind of shine through. And again, I think there's some cool changes that got made. There
Yeah.
are like where they show you things that happen in the books, but you didn't see them happen. When they show you those things, that's cool. Like that can be really cool when they just
Yeah.
make wholesale changes to characters or the storyline or these character arcs. That's not cool. That
Hmm.
fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
And that would be yeah, book, back to book recommendations. That's what was so challenging about the series, is it was so far it's been such a different ride than the books. Um and even everything that I've talked about with the books, I don't really feel that with I don't feel a connection to the series like that. Um I don't think I want to go back and rewatch them. They're kind of stressful to watch. They don't feel homey.
mhm.
Um I'm still going to watch them just because I want to see the stuff. I'm kind of hoping that they kind of bring it together and finally get their heads out of their asses. But
Mm,
um, I don't know if they will. Now, do you hear all the hubbub about Sanderson kind of going to bat? Like, he was a consultant for the show, right?
yeah,
And he'd go to bat for these things, and they would even tell Sanderson, though, they go, nah, you
yep,
don't know what you're talking about, buddy. At least that's
yeah,
how I think
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
No, I remember again. Sanderson actually, he seems like he engages a lot on Reddit,
mhm.
which is somewhere it's kind of like one of my social media like guilty pleasures, is like just browsing Reddit. Um, but like, so I remember, when there was an AMA, like it's gonna ask me anything, right? It's like a thing where somebody goes on Reddit and they people just ask them questions and they'll answer them. It's a pretty cool thing. And he did like an AMA, um, around the time that the first season came out, and there was a lot of shit that he was like he
Yeah, you
fought
really let
for
it out,
this or
huh?
he fought for that. Yeah, he did. He did not hold back. He was very, very vocal about, oh, he fought for this thing, he fought for that thing, or they snuck this thing in past him essentially, like, and there were some things that he was like he did not care for.
Yeah.
I think the Perrin choice was one. The sort of the structure of the ending in that last episode. I think the worst part of that whole season was the last episode.
It was such a letdown, man.
Almost everything else was explainable or forgivable or like fine, or the occasional thing where you're like, oh, I'm really glad they showed me that other perspective of this event or whatever. Like there was a lot of cool shit. The last episode of the first season was horrible. And it seriously colored my whole vision of the first season. Like,
Yeah.
there were episodes there that I could rewatch. I know you
Wasn't
talk
that?
about
Yeah.
the rewatching thing.
Hmm.
Once I saw that last episode, I didn't go back and rewatch.
Yeah, I remember being pissed at the end. Wait, wasn't it the one where Egwene single-handedly defeated the all the darkspawn that were going across the border or something like that?
Well, it wasn't
Yeah.
Egwene single hand. It was Egwene
Oh yeah, they linked or
Nynaeve, and
something,
yeah,
and
they linked and did this whole thing, and
it's just like,
and it's so stupid. And it does it like it completely rewrote the arc of um Rand. It completely rewrote their arcs. It didn't make any sense based on the rules of, you
yeah, it
know,
completely got rid of the magic system that
like the
exists.
magic system. Robert Jordan's magic system
Dude,
is
in the TV, they
really
just get
cool.
mad and they scream and then they get more power. That's their magic system.
I hate it. It's so stupid. Robert Jordan's magic system is incredible and it's
Oh,
detailed and it's
it's
not a
so
hard. It's
cool.
not. It's it's not quite like a fully hard magic system. Like it's definitely got some
Yeah,
soft, squishy elements to it. Like whereas, but at the same time, it's a harder magic system than many. It's got
yeah,
rules to it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
and it's
yeah,
it's awesome. It's one of the things that you can kind of, as a reader, you can dive into and get your imagination going and think about it. And there's all like,
well,
yeah,
well, dude, just a case in point. I mean that first chapter of the book, even in the prologue, like Luce Theron, like in the books, like men tend to be stronger in earth and fire, and so
mm-hmm,
like Luce Theron, he spreads his senses out and he feels like the magma basically below the crust, and he goes like, I need the magma, and he's able to pull it up because he's so powerful and create a volcano. Um, but the way they describe the threads that they use, and almost like you're weaving something, um,
mm-hmm,
like I appreciate that was kind of a hard thing to put into to show form. Um, but it was one of those things where like this was the age of legends back then, and Luz Theron was one of the most powerful channelers in existence, and we got to kind of work up to that, or
yeah,
you need devices to help you. And yeah, there was a structure to it and there was a feel to it, and yeah, it was so sad when they just completely got rid of that and had this untrained, not even a novice yet from the Pumpkin Land,
yeah,
emotions, and it was kind of the same with the male channelers too. As much as I enjoyed they showed Logain, there was just it was like there's just a shallowness to it that bummed me out.
mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
don't disagree. There was a shallowness to it. I love this book, love the series. I do understand why they changed a lot of the book, though. In terms of like, I don't know what percentage it actually is. It is basically the Rand show, and there's a huge chunk of this book. Uh, there were some things I did wish they had showed.
Hmm.
Uh, like I would have really liked um, to see them get to. Oh crap! Now I'm forgetting the name of the city. Barelon.
Okay. Yeah.
I wish they'd showed that because it was like not that big a town, or not that big a city. It's like a small city, and they're like, "This is the biggest city we've ever been to."
Yeah. That was isn't that the one where Rand approached the White Cloaks and
Yeah,
he had his Heron marked sword? Yeah.
yeah.
which was a rad moment in the
It
book,
is.
by
It's a
the way.
great moment, dude. And it shows a lot. It shows off a lot. It's a great moment. I wish they had had that scene.
Oh,
I
me
wish they
too.
had had that city. It's also where you meet Min for the first time,
Yeah.
very briefly. Um, like they had to reshuffle a lot of stuff. I wish they'd had that scene. I do understand why they got rid of like a lot of the second half of the book.
Yeah.
Um, because there's this section in the book where basically from the time that Rand and Matt get separated from Tom
Yeah.
Maryland through to when they meet up with everybody again in Camelin. Uh,
Just farm to farm,
where it's just town, and they're just like going from town to town,
they
and
meet
it's a
Elsie,
huge, yeah, it's a huge chunk of the book, right?
it really is.
It's a huge chunk of the book, and they're just going from town to town, and in every single town they find an inn and they go to bed in the inn and they get woken up and ambushed by dark friends and have to flee the town in the middle of the night. And this happens like 4 times or something.
It
It
does.
actually gets ridiculous.
Yeah, and Matt's getting worse. There is some
Yeah.
there's
There,
progression,
there is
but
some progression, but it's
it's a
like
pretty big chunk of the book.
it's a big chunk of the book where they're just going from town to town, and it's like
Yeah.
very repetitive and not that interesting. And so they basically decided to cut most of that, and so they take almost all of that and they boil it all down into like one town
Yeah.
basically. But they cut a whole bunch of really cool locations. Like I assume they did a lot of this for budgetary reasons. I
Yeah.
always hate that when they do that shit for budgetary. Like, look, you knew what the book was when you fucking greenlit the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
knew what
do
the
it.
budget should be when you read the fucking book, right? Did you read the fucking book? No. Well, why'd you greenlight the fucking
Yep.
show? It should be, is it, it's a huge sprawling scope.
Yeah, you need big medieval towns, you need big sprawling scenes, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And if you're not willing to like have like the 7 or 8 like major locations, like big cities, don't fucking greenlight the show.
yeah.
Lame.
I agree.
Fucking, it's
Oh
just,
man. Yeah, this show, and I did want to mention too to make sure part of why this book is so and these books are so important to me is because the scenes like when Rand confronts the White Cloaks, there's scenes like that that really stick out, and Robert Jordan's prose shines through in these scenes where they just stick in your head. It's like a hook, and you could just see them and you can feel them and you can like you get the sense that there's something more going on, but not in a lame way, not in like a lame like you won't like me when I'm angry kind of
yeah.
thing, or I don't even know my own power. It's not like that. It's written so well. And there's a few scenes throughout the books that are so impactful, that are so well written. I mean, I've written book reports on them. Like Dumai Wells, I wrote a book report on in high school
Mhm.
because it was just this amazing scene with the way they described it and the prose he used. And yeah, if you got a show like this, I think about it. It's almost like if you got something you love and you cherish, and you got these scenes, like say with your kids, like you got all these scenes from your past, and someone made a movie about them, and they got all your scenes wrong, or they just cut them out,
Mhm.
or they hired a weird actor to be your kid. And you're like that. It doesn't have the same thing. Like that's what it feels like to me when I watch the show a little bit.
Yeah,
Like even Logain, like I feel like they miscast the actor for Logain.
I
Like
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
Logain was a beefy boy in the books. I think that nails down how I feel. It's very cathartic to talk about.
Hmm. It
Um,
is. It is very cathartic to talk about. I agree.
yeah. Conversely, that's why you should read the books if you haven't, or if you have read them, why you should reread them because it's just full of scenes like that. And I guess, yeah, I don't know. Any extra thoughts on that?
No, I think you summed that up pretty good.
Cool. I did want to, if you got time, I wanted to go into controversy a little bit, see if there was any controversies we could debunk or talk about, or if there was
Well,
another area you
like
wanted to
what
go. Well,
controversies?
well, let's see. When I talk to people who are resistant to reading, one is the size of the books. Um,
Oh yeah, they're huge.
they are gigantic. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
There's no
gonna.
way around that.
There's no controversy there. These books are enormous.
They really are.
But some
And
people don't like big books.
they don't like big books.
No, they're not too big. They're great.
They are.
Um,
There's some people say there is a slog in the middle from like what, 8 to 10 or 7 to 10.
oh
Um,
yeah, like in terms of the series.
yeah, in
Is it?
terms of the series. So I guess if we're only talking about Eye of the World, maybe there's a slog in that one too.
There's a little bit of a slog in Eye of the World in just this like in this chunk of the sort of second half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
It's still
don't,
entertaining, I think, but
and
yeah,
the finish of the book is great. Like when it
yeah.
starts getting going again, it really moves. As far as like the slog in the middle of the series, I never felt that that was true.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I love like
Cool.
I've heard people who are like, man, these books are like it's going on too long. Why won't he just finish up? I'm like, I could have just read those books forever. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt
I
the same way when they
uh,
came out. I just like, oh, it was like sweet nectar.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I never was like, I never thought these books were going on too long. If Robert Jordan just could have kept writing forever, I kept reading them,
I'd be
even if he
happy to.
never finished or wrapped up. You know.
Well, no, because he evolved in the series, and there was a tone shift. Because the characters had evolved too. It was more political. There was intrigue. There was politics. There was kind of deeper power game type things going on, and it was complicated. I thought in a really nice way, but
It was never overcomplicated though.
nah, I never felt overwhelmed. There was a point I felt like he was tossing Aes Sedai names just out of a hat. It's like picking them out, having oh, it's sister whatever and sister da da. I was like, who the hell is this? Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot who this was. Whenever they had all done the Tower in Exile and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and let's see the other one. One that kind of pisses me off sometimes is people rail on Jordan for being like chauvinist or something because he he doesn't write women well, and I wondered if you had an opinion on that.
Because he doesn't write women well.
Yeah, like they'll be like, oh, all the women, they're just braid tugging. it's
Yeah, I
it's
think
hard. I
it's
don't share
complicated.
the
So
thought, so yeah.
it's a matriarchal society mostly. Women
Hmm.
are in charge of a lot in most places because of Aes Sedai are powerful men. Male channelers have no they go insane basically. So they are rounded up and hunted down. And so I said I have a lot more power and then women in general have a lot more power that sort of flows out of that. And I think there are a lot of mannerisms and a lot of um, attitudes that flow out of that I don't think they're poorly written. I think he's writing a different culture and a different people and he's writing them really well. Yeah,
It's
I
really
know.
well said, Gus. Yeah, we can stay friends. Uh, Because, dude, I see that a lot actually. People they'll take a shit on the whole series because they don't like that the women are like written as like kind of like strong, independent. There is some henpecking that goes on, but yeah, that's kind of how I always read it too. I was like, this is a culture he's reading. It's very believable. Once you read it, it's like, of course, yeah, men broke the world.
Mhm.
That's kind of their vibe. Um, Women rule the world. There are mostly, there's a lot of queens,
Yeah.
and but I always liked it too because that gives the boys an interesting perspective too. So you got Rand, Matt, and Perrin. All of them have grown up around these strong women characters. It just adds a whole other layer and dynamic to everything that was really cool. And Jordan never goes into anything sexual in his books. There is romance in his books.
I mean, it's not porny, but I mean, there are scenes.
That's kind of implied, but he's never like, yeah, I don't know. But I always thought of it more of like a romance type stuff,
Mhm.
and like for me, he just set the bar so high. Like when I read Nine Even Lands whole thing, their arc, it's amazing. That was the thing I did today from Rosamund Pike. She did a reading of the chapter where he basically she's like railing on him and hitting him and stuff, and Land just picks her up and kisses her, right? And she's like,
Mhm.
"How dare you?" And he like stares and he says, "You have made what was it? You have made flowers grow where I planted only stones," or something like that. And it was this like speech that Land gave, and Nynaeve going, "Oh," and
Yeah.
this is one of these scenes that pops out. But like their whole arc was incredible, man. And here I am. I was like a teenage boy. I don't want to read romance and stuff, and I was like inspired by it. It's just one of those books, man. It hits it all because it's got the
Mhm.
fantasy, got a little bit of romance element if you're into that, and even if you're not into that, it's so well written. The characters are so cool. Yeah, I don't know if there's too much more controversy.
No, I don't
I feel like we
think
kind of
so.
hit all the bases with
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah, if you hadn't read it, you should read it.
And if you have read it, you should go read it again.
Yeah, dude. Every like 5 years or so, you should do a reread. It changes every decade where I've read it in my life. It's been a whole different read.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Also, big shout out to the audiobooks. They do a great job.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So well, you good, man?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Yeah, go eat dinner. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I want to go read Wheel of Time now. When's that series coming out? Did you see anything? Was that 2025?
It was like coming in March, I think. A few months.
Okay,
So
March.
we'll probably do season slash
Yeah,
book two slash season two
we
before
bitch
that.
about it a little more. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna need to complain about it a
I
little more
have
before.
I have more bitching to do about the second
Me
season.
too. Yeah, we have to gird our loins for this third season. It
Yeah.
might be a real stinker. It could be awesome.
Could be
Yeah.
awesome. If they take the criticism to heart and listen to fucking Brandon Sanderson, maybe it'll be better.
Hope
I don't
springs
know.
eternal.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Gus.
All right. Oh, thank you all for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show and hope to see you on the next one. Have a good night.
Stay in the light. That's the Wheel of Time version of Stay Gold.
All right.
You know if you read the book.
All
Later, man. Bye,
right.
everybody.
All right. Yeah. Take care.